This past Shabbos, we read the two parshas of Vayakel Kudei, which is interesting. Vayakel talks about how Moshe gathered the people to tell them, he wanted to gather them all together to tell them something, whereas Kudei was the count of the individual. But which one is it? Is it everybody comes together as one big group, or is the Kudei the individual that, each individual and their characteristics that they have? The truth is, it's really both. Because the only way to have a Yaakov is to have the Kudei, to have the individual, to see the individual characteristics, individual gifts, strengths of each person. And once you recognize those things that are special about that person, then and only then you bring everybody together and have a Yaakov. So Chana, my brother to you, is that now in your Bas Mitzvah, and as you come together as part of the Jewish community, it's not that you get lost within the Jewish community, it's just one person, just one number, one person in this large group, but it's really the Kudei. It's the special gifts that Hashem gave you, and the special things that all the special talents Hashem gave you. It's taking those, bringing those with you, and then as you come to be part of the adult Jewish community. So, Mazel Tov. And when the Rebbe was alive, he would always send a letter on behalf, for bar and bas mitzvahs, and there's even though the Rebbe is not with us now, but there was the text that the Rebbe traditionally sent. He obviously varied sometimes, but there was the general text that they used to send, and I'd like to call my father-in-law, Cece's father, Moshe Klein, come up here and read the Rebbe's letter, and if you could please rise.
Baruch Hashem, Brooklyn, New York. Rocho v'sholem. V'man ele michtovo, oy k'seves, asher higio legil 12 shono, hi oinas bas mitzvah. Hine yehi rotzoin, shetekablu laich oil malchus shomayim, ve'oil mitzvahs beleivov sholem. V'Hashem yisborech yatzlichoch, belimudoch, ube'anogo, v'tigdel im liyois reuyo l'shem bas Chabad. מתאימו לרוצן נשיאינו הקדושים, זכר צדיק וקדושים לברוכו, נשמוסו בגנים מהירים, זכוסם יוגין עליהם. ותשפיע גם על החבר'ס תחיה שלו בזה. בדיבור, ועוד יויסר, על ידי יויסר דוגמה חיו של בס ישראל, המחונכת בדרכי החסידוס. וזה יובילוך, אוישר, רוחני וגשמי. בבירכס כסיבי וחסימתיבו, רבס אלי כסיבי. I hope you'll understand my English. After all, I was born and raised in Israel. I never went to school in America, so please bear with me. Blessing, these are 3 translations of the Rebbe's letter that I just read in Hebrew. Blessing and peace. In response to your letter, in which you write that you have arrived at the age of 12 years old, which is the time of Bas Mitzvah. Behold, may it be the will of Hashem, that you accept upon yourself the yoke of the kingdom of heaven and the mitzvahs with a complete heart. And may Hashem grant you success in your studies, in your personal growth, and make sure to be truly worthy of the title Daughter of Chabad. In alignment with the wishes of our holy Rabbein of blessed memory, may their merit protect us. And may you be an influence also on your friends with this, in speech, and more so by being a living example of a daughter of Israel, who was educated in the ways of Hasidus. And this should bring you spiritual and material happiness. With blessings, the Rebbe's holy signature. And knowing Chana, we know that the Rebbe's brachos is going to be fulfilled in full. She's going to be growing up to be a Bas Chabad and a Bas Israel, and an example to all our friends how you have to be. Mazel Tov, Mazel Tov.
Tonight's program is all about the power of Jewish women. strength and power. This energy helps you tap into your potential and become the best person you can be. It seems appropriate that when there are so many powerful Jewish women and girls gathered in one room, that we say a prayer for our families and Jewish brotherhood in Eretz Yisrael. I'd like to call upon my sister Musi to lead us in a reciting of Tehillim.
Tonight begins the 25th day of the month of Adar, which is actually the birthday of the Rebbetzin for whom I am named, Chaim Mishka. What an incredible stroke of divine providence that we gather tonight to celebrate Chana's entry into Jewish womanhood on the birthday of one of the most amazing Jewish women. It is customary in Chabad to recite one's own chapter of Tehillim daily, as well as those of the Rebbe and Rebbetzin. I will now recite the chapter of Tehillim that would correspond to the Rebbetzin age. Please join me for Kapitel Kuf Tezvav. The text can be found on the back of your booklet as well as translation. Please rise. Laila nu Adonai, Laila nu ki l'shimcha tein kavod al chasdecha v'al amitecha. Lama yenu hagayim ayena eleheyam. V'elehi b'shamayim kol asher chafetz asa. Atabeim kesef v'zahav masa yedei adam. Pen lahem v'la yedaderu, einayim lahem v'la yiru. Aznayim lahem v'la yishma'u, af lahem v'la yirichun. Yedeim v'la yamishun, ragleim v'la yahalechu, la yayu v'grenam. Kimayim yiu Isaiah kol asher b'teach badhem. Yisrael b'tach badinai yazramu maginam hu. B'Yisrael b'tchu badinai yazramu maginam hu. Yirei Adonai b'tchu badinai yazramu maginam hu. Adonai zecharanu yivarech, yivarech es beis Yisrael, yivarech es beis Aaron. Yivarech Yirei Adonai haftanim imam belim. Yosef Adonai aleichem, aleichem ve'al b'neichem. Barucham atem Adonai, aseh shemayim va'aretz. Hashemayim shemayim Adonai va'aretz nasam l'bnei Adam. Lai hametzim yahallelujah v'lai kol yardei dima. V'anachnu nevarech ya me'ata v'adelam hallelujah.
In honor of Chana's Bas Mitzvah, we have assembled today to celebrate Jewish womanhood. Each of us in this room is charting her own spiritual journey. We all have individual paths we must follow to reach our personal potential. And yet, as we sit here together, our paths cross each other's, and we realize that we have more in common than we ever knew. Tonight, we will travel through history, strengthen our faith, and reaffirm our commitment to Judaism. Judaism survives and thrives because of the Jewish woman. It is we who bestow upon future generations the beauty, the values, the peace, and the strength that rest in the heart of every Jewish home. Join us as we meet some of Jewish history's most extraordinary women. These are women whose faith and commitment and compassion were instrumental in bringing us all here today. Let us transcend both time and fashion to be with them and to gain inspiration from their example. Each one is, as King Solomon wrote so very long ago, an Eshet Chayil, a woman of valor.
Our matriarch Sarah. The flickering Shabbat candles reflect the joy on Sarah's face as the flames leapt heavenward. After many long years of childlessness, she finally embraced a son, Yitzchak. Sarah, devoting herself to the woman of her generation, planting the seeds of faith and belief in one God in a world of idol worship. Sarah, standing at her husband Abraham's side. As he educated the men folk, she served as the spiritual mother of the feminine multitudes. Sarah, the first Jewish woman, chosen by God to become the matriarch of the Jewish people. The first woman to light a Shabbat candle. The first woman to bless the challah dough and set up a kosher kitchen. This was her destiny, and she rose to fulfill it. Sarah, like a loving gardener, tended son Yitzchak. Her efforts were not in vain, for her little Yitzchak grew to become a forefather of the Jewish nation, a nation whose roots were strong and solid because of one woman's care, because of Sarah, the first mother of the Jewish people and the first Jewish mother. Sarah's leading mitzvah was Hachnasat Orchim, welcoming guests into her humble home. Many people came to her home, and she gave each one a place to rest from the harsh desert sun and served them the very best. As they partook of the delicious food she had prepared, Sarah spoke to them about Hashem, the creator of the world. When they thanked her, she happily redirected their appreciation to acknowledge God. Sarah's primary trait was her giving nature. She had the gift of making friends and strangers alike feel at ease in her presence, and was therefore able to reach them with her teachings. Rachel, the beloved wife of Yaakov, our patriarch, epitomizes the concept of selfless love. Yaakov toiled 7 years for Laban, Rachel's father, his condition for the marriage to his daughter. Laban, however, deceitfully switched brides so that Leah, his eldest daughter, marry Yaakov instead. But anticipating some deception, Yaakov and Rachel arranged secret signs between themselves to ensure their marriage. In an act of absolute selflessness, Rachel conveyed these signs to Leah, so as not to shame her sister. Although Rachel later married Yaakov as well, this selfless act remains exemplary for all generations. This same trait of selflessness also comes across in her relationship with her children. In fact, it is Rachel who stands as a model of the perfect Jewish wife and mother for all time. Unlike our other matriarchs, Sarah, Rivka, and Leah, Rachel was not buried in the cave of Machpelah together with our holy patriarchs, Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. Rachel, who died while en route to Canaan, not far from Bethlehem, was buried there by her grieving husband. Rachel was not shortchanged by this burial, but this would have been her will. This final act was the ultimate portrayal of Rachel's selflessness. For Rachel, it was an honor and privilege to be buried on the side of the road so that on their way into exile, her children could stop to pray in her gravesite. They would pray and she in turn would beseech God on their behalf. In her merit, he would ultimately return the children of Israel to their borders. Rachel felt that if she could be of benefit to her children, even generations later, then that was her greatest privilege. That was her true honor and glory, superseding any other, even burial in the cave of Machpelah. The true feelings of a Yiddish mama. As a Jewish bride and again as a mother, Rachel reached the highest pinnacle of service to God and to her family. Moshe Rabbeinu, our leader Moses. I lived during the time of Jewish slavery in Egypt. We were stripped of all human rights. The final horror was a decree to kill every Jewish newborn baby boy. Imagine my disappointment when I learned one day that my father had decided to separate from my mother for fear of having a son who might be killed. My father's actions inspired others, and soon all the husbands did the same. Though young in years, I could not contain myself and turned to my father and said, "Father, your decree is harsher than Pharaoh's. He wishes to destroy all the baby boys, but your action eliminates the girls as well. Father, as a leader of our nation, you must show courage." With a prophetic vision granted to a select few, I saw the destiny of the entire Jewish people. I recognized and understood my brother Moshe's holy mission. My father saw the wisdom of my words and reunited with my mother, and then my baby brother Moshe was born. Despite overwhelming odds, I held fast to the belief that this child, floating in a basket upon the Egyptian waters, would one day be the redeemer of the Jewish people. And when it finally happened, I married him to dance on the shores of the Sea of Green after the splitting of the sea. I gathered the women and we raised our voices in harmony to give thanks to the Almighty God. My name is Ruth. I was born into the royal family of Moab. I was raised as a princess with every luxury a girl could wish for. I met and married Machlon, the son of the illustrious leader Elimelech and his wife Naomi. Wealthy and of Jewish nobility, they had come to Moab to escape the hunger that had broken out in the city of Bethlehem in Eretz Israel. God was not happy with their decision to leave, and they subsequently lost all of their wealth. Then my father-in-law, brother-in-law, and husband all passed away in quick succession. Heartbroken and destitute, my mother-in-law Naomi decided to return to her homeland. She spoke from the heart to my sister-in-law Orpah and myself and advised us to remain in Moab. She had nothing to offer us, nor could she promise anything for the future. We would be better off staying with our birth families. I felt such a great attachment to Naomi and to her faith that I insisted, wherever you will go, I will go. Your people are my people. Your God, my God. My neighbors all thought I made the wrong choice, giving up a life of comfort and riches for poverty and scorn. What they could not know was that I yearned for truth. My soul yearned to join the people of God, the Jewish nation. I felt privileged to forsake wealth and status for the God and heritage of my late husband. For this, I was rewarded with a rich blessing. David, king of Israel, descended from my branch on the illustrious Jewish tree. The royalty of the Jewish nation descends directly from me, and from this eternal branch will ultimately descend the Mashiach. My name is Shulamit. Perhaps you know my father, Rabbi Akiva, the great sage of the Talmud, and my special mother, Rachel. The story I would like to share took place on my wedding day. There was a very festive feeling in our home. The women worked hard to prepare the wedding feast. The tables were set festively adorned. Delicious delicacies were cooked and baked. Every girl dreams of her wedding, and I was no different. This was my day, and I was so happy. The evening was perfect. The atmosphere was one of holiness and joy, a mingling of worldly wonders and spirituality. After the beautiful wedding, I removed my brooch and stuck it into the clay wall beside my bed. When I pulled it out the following morning, a poisonous snake came trailing after it. The pin had penetrated the serpent and killed it. Was there anything special that you did yesterday? My father asked when I showed him the venomous creature. A poor man came to our door yesterday evening. Everybody was busy at the banquet, and there was no one to attend to him. So I took my portion of food and gave it to him. Yesterday, said my father, I was filled with a sense of foreboding. On the day that you were born, an astrologer told me that on the day of her wedding, your daughter shall pass on. Although a Jew is not bound by astrology, I never forgot his words. My daughter, you have been saved from the dreadful decree. Tzedakah tatzil mimavet. Charity saves from death. And today, I am filled with joy. This message stayed with me for the rest of my life. I was the bride. It was my special day. Lost in my own thoughts, I could have easily ignored the needs of a beggar. But I have been differently taught. No matter the situation, it is always our responsibility to look out for others. to be in her place, but Esther did not grow proud. Torn away from her home and forced to live with a non-Jewish tyrannical ruler, she was determined to remain a faithful Jewess. And so she began her double life. Outwardly playing the part of a contented queen, she secretly observed the Jewish faith. 7 trusted maidservants helped her remember the Shabbat day amidst a confusing Persian calendar. An abundance of fruit, vegetables, and legumes enabled her to continue eating kosher, but her greatest test was yet to be. Haman, the evil prime minister and confidant to her husband, the king, plotted to annihilate the Jewish people. Defying ancient custom, Esther decided to approach the king without permission, to plead for her life and for the lives of her people. Ignoring the threat of death for this act, Esther remained loyal to the nation of her birth. Knowing she was only a channel of heavenly salvation, Esther asked the Jews to fast and to pray. In merit of our spiritual awakening, God will save us, she declared, and he did. Esther found grace in the king's eyes, and he obeyed all her wishes. The plot was foiled. The scroll Esther read every year on Purim Day continues to inspire us with the legacy of a queen whose loyalty to her God and her people brought about a miraculous salvation. Esther's role was paramount to the survival of the Jewish people in her time. The Megillah, the book of Esther, sends the message to all Jewish women in all generations that the survival and continuity of the Jewish people rests with each of us. Esther could have chosen to hide behind her position as queen and allowed her nation to die, but drawing on inner strength, she put her life on the line for her brethren. Her name is Donna Gracia. She hails from a tragic and difficult time in our history. She was a young woman at the time of the Spanish Inquisition. She fled the country of her birth. Portugal, the very country that her family helped build, now scorned her and her faith by burning her people at the stake. Donna Gracia gave up her homeland to keep her Judaism. Taking her daughter and nephew, the remnants of her aristocratic family, she wandered through Europe seeking a haven of refuge where she could adhere to her faith. Managing her family's huge banking interests, she steadily rose to power with influence in the twin worlds of finance and politics. The mighty princes of these worlds, bankers and kings alike, disdained the fact that she was a Jewess. Many doors were closed and many opportunities were missed, but she nevertheless remained steadfast in keeping her faith alive. She ensured that her daughter and nephew, who later became her son-in-law, also remained observant. Wealth did not corrupt Donna Gracia. She used her power wisely to help her Jewish brethren. Eventually, the family reached Constantinople, the capital of the mighty Turkish Empire. There, they could practice Torah and Mitzvah without fear. Sultan Suleiman the Magnificent appointed her son-in-law, Don Yosef, advisor to his court. Soon their fame spread throughout the land, and Jews flocked to Donna Gracia and her family in times of need. Until the end of their lives, Donna Gracia's family dedicated their hearts and souls to helping their brethren. Power and prestige had not weakened their Jewish identity. Her family and her people learned well the lesson she had taught them. My name is Lala Suleika Shakvil. I was born in Tangiers, Morocco. I was the apple of my father's eye. For my first birthday, he bought me a golden crown and said, "My daughter, this you will wear on your wedding day." Growing up, I would gaze at the crown high on the shelf and dream of the time when I would stand under the wedding canopy. As a young child, I had been betrothed to a boy from a good Jewish home. As the time for my wedding began to draw near, My mother spent many days and nights embroidering fabric and sewing my beautiful 5-piece traditional wedding ensemble. I watched her labor of love with awe and admiration. Hashem had blessed me with exceptional beauty, which deepened as I grew older. One fateful day, the Sultan's son saw me as I shopped in the marketplace, and he wanted to marry me. He offered me a life of riches and nobility. I was to denounce Judaism and become his wife. I was shocked. There was nothing in the whole world that he could offer in exchange for my faith and belief in God. I refused his offer. I was taken by force from my home and imprisoned in the palace dungeon and told to rethink my decision. After 3 days, I was brought before the prince and given one last chance to reconsider. My time in the dungeon had not weakened my resolve. It had strengthened my faith in Hashem, and I knew beyond a shadow of doubt that I would live and die as a Jewish girl. The prince ordered that I be put to death. I was to belong to him or to no one. My final request was that I be led to the execution, wearing the wedding gown my mother had so painstakingly created just for me. And so it was. The wife of Reb Levin and mother of the Lubavitcher Rebbe, Rabbi Menachem Mendel Schneerson, the seventh leader of the Chabad movement. With the advent of communism, the Jews of the Soviet Union faced terrible persecution. My husband and I became very active in the underground movement, defying the new laws of the Russian government at great personal risk. In 1939, my husband was arrested and subsequently exiled. Despite the difficulties that it entailed, I decided to travel with him into exile. While in faraway Kazakhstan, my husband yearned for a way to transcribe his Torah thoughts, but we lacked even the simplest of items such as paper and ink. I managed to arrange for a few of his holy books to be smuggled in. Then I made him ink from some wild berries, roots, and leaves that I collected in the nearby woods. Due to primitive living conditions and years of torture and deprivation, my husband became seriously ill and passed away while still in exile. After the war, I was able to leave Russia, but would not travel without my husband's holy books and manuscripts. With the help and encouragement of some faithful Hasidim, I was able to bring his priceless works to freedom. My husband's holy legacy was preserved. Tonight we share but a few moments of the life of Rebbe Chaim Mushka. Each portrays volumes about her persona, but remain for us only glimpses into a life full of such moments. When it was decreed that her father, Rabbi Yosef Yitzchak Schneerson, the sixth Rebbe, would be exiled for keeping Judaism alive in Russia, it was his daughter, Chaim Mushka, whom he chose to take with him as his confidant. Her courage, her quick mind, and her devotion to the cause of Yiddishkeit made it her the most apt choice to accompany him. And when he was ultimately freed, it was with his daughter Chaim Mushka that he celebrated. Many years later, when her husband, the Rebbe of righteous memory, was beseeched by Hasidim to accept the title of Rebbe and assume the mantle of leadership of the Chabad Lubavitch movement, it was Rebbe Chaim Mushka who encouraged him to do so. Despite the demands it would place on her private life, despite the Rebbe's own reluctance, despite the immense personal sacrifice for her, the Rebbitzin gave away everything she had for Hasidim, for the Hasidim and for the greater Jewish community. Throughout the years, the Rebbitzin stood steadfast by the Rebbe as he strove to bring the knowledge of God to all of humanity. The global expansion of Chabad, the thousands of emissaries spread on all continents, the institutions of education and social welfare are all to her credit, and the wife of the Rebbe, she shared him not only with the Jewish world, but with all of mankind. Sadly, the Rebbe and Rebbetzin had no children of their own. A child visiting their home once asked, "Where are your children?" To which the Rebbetzin warmly replied, "The Hasidim are my children." Today, thousands of young girls have been named for her, and hundreds of institutions have been established in her memory. The Jewish woman of tomorrow. The Jewish woman today represents us all. Often juggling a career and a home, she maintains her dignity in both roles. She is the center of Jewish life, the source of Jewish strength, and the focus of Jewish identity. The Jewish woman is praised as the Akeret Habayit, the foundation of the home. It is she who sets the tone in the home and endows her children with her values. She helps to forge the direction her entire family will take as they travel along the journey of life. And not only for her husband and children, her dedication charters a course for her future generations too. It is she who enables her family to continue to give and to grow by passing on the knowledge of our Jewish heritage and tradition. Today, we gather to celebrate as Chana steps over the threshold from childhood into womanhood on the occasion of her bat mitzvah. This is a milestone not only for Chana, but for her entire family, her community, and indeed the entire Jewish nation. It is my pleasure to present to you the Jewish woman of tomorrow.
Throughout history, we have seen how the Jewish woman has served as that core of strength to the Jewish people. Through all the difficulties and struggles our people have encountered, Jewish women have kept the flames of Torah and Yiddishkeit burning bright. We are meant to be the keepers and protectors of the flames of Torah. For the true center of Jewish life is not the shul or the yeshiva, it is the home, the Jewish home, where the woman reigns supreme. She brings life into the world and nurtures life along the paths of goodness and truth. She is the spiritual queen.
My mother Shabbos candle, which made our home so bright, which faithfully she lighted with a prayer on Friday night. Then around the table we gathered and we heard my father chant the Kiddush in his heart in every word. My mother Shabbos candle, which made our home so bright, which faithfully she lighted with a prayer on Friday night. Then around the table we gathered and we heard my father chant the Kiddush in his heart in every word.
Every Friday night, as the sun is about to set, the Jewish woman lights a candle, recites a blessing, and suddenly the entire home is filled with a glow of sanctity and peacefulness that touches the soul of every member of the household. Indeed, the lights of Shabbat create an environment of love and harmony between the members of the family. The tradition of lighting the Shabbos candles not only affects our own homes, but the rest of the world as well. Today, the world is suffused with spiritual darkness. We can change that. Every act of kindness performed for another human being, every gem of Torah's wisdom studied and shared, sheds a radiant light that pushes away some of the darkness. The candles of Shabbat represent the message of light and hope. Chana, as you kindle your candle every Friday night, I hope you will take an extra minute behind your covered face to think about your rich history and the women who have come before you, and that you can appreciate on ever deeper levels your lineage and heritage.
Good evening. I feel privileged to have this responsibility of being the next Jewish woman in this long line of history. I have just been handed the torch of life, the torch of Jewish womanhood, and I plan to take this light which I was given and light up the world around me. I draw tremendous inspiration from all of these remarkable women that you have just met. Additionally, I would like you to meet a few exemplary women who are not necessarily famous, but certainly are very special to me and have shaped who I am. My Bobby Gorska. Bobby, thank you so much for making the extra effort to be here with me tonight. I know it's close to Pesach and you're preparing youngsters for an army, and it's a really busy time in school too. I really appreciate you being here. I love the time to spend with you in Minnesota, and now that my Mitzvah has finally arrived, we can begin our countdown for our trip to you for Pesach. Bobby, thank you so much for caring about me the way you do. Even with many grandchildren, thank God, you take interest in each of our lives and in how we are each doing in school. I am so inspired by the way you live a life committed to bringing Judaism to the Jewish community in the Twin Cities. I'm not sure how you survived all those years of cold Minnesota winters, but I know that you have made the city a much warmer place through your love and devotion to your